Hello everyone, and welcome to day 12 of my advent calendar. Now if you've watched yesterday, you saw me make a throw out of an old sock. Now you didn't think I'd let that cuff go to waste, did you? Of course not. I'm going to make a cushion out of this. So what we'll need is a pair of scissors, and these are slightly going out, but there's a line you have to follow. Well, you don't have to. I do. So I'll just cut this. Right there. And then open it up. And, well, it already has a backing, but I'll cut that out. I don't like that. And I've got a few cushions I made before, and this is the size I want. This one is lovely. It's silk velvet. But this is the one that, well, not the one, this is the size I want. And I just want to know how big it has to be. Need some little bit of room for sewing, so that would have to be one. And then here's another one. So I can cut it here. And I'll just follow the line of the knit. There. And again, this is very simple. So I'll just fold that in half. And when you're sewing, fold them together outside to outside. That's where I want to sew. And I'm just going to follow the line there. There's a little black line. So hopefully that means it will be straight. Now I'm at the corner here, and I'm going to go in a little way so that there's a gap left over to fill the cushion. And I should have done that on the other side, and I do normally do that, so that there's a gap in the middle, which I think makes it easier to finish the cushion once it's filled. There, now I've made corners on both sides so that there's a gap in the middle, and I'm leaving the thread on so I can finish that once it's filled. And I'm going to cut the edges. Be careful you don't cut into your sewing. Cut the corners so they are not that bulky. Like that. And then I'll use a little bit of glue and run that over my stitches and on the outside edges to make sure it doesn't fray, because of course it's a knitted material and it's very easy to fray the edges. And of course my stitching is it's not very fine, so it might easily come apart. And this is going to be on the inside, so you won't see it. And just, you don't need a lot, just a little bit to stabilize it. And you can use fabric glue, of course. But I find tacky is fine as well. It just secures the stitching in place and it won't fray. And I'll do the same on the other side. And now I'll just let that dry for a while. That has dried, and I put some extra glue on the corners just to make them extra strong. Because now I'm going to turn it inside out, and I have to be careful with those edges. And I'm going to push the corners out. And I'm going to do that with my fairly blunt scissors. I don't want to use my sewing scissors because they're too sharp. But these are fine, and I can just push the corners a little bit like that. Make them look nice and, well, squarish. It's not going to be really square, especially not with such a heavy fabric like that. Right, now that's ready for filling. And I normally use sand or bird sand to fill the pillows. But I think the fabric is too coarse. I think the sand will come through. So I've decided to use linseed. And you have to be careful with anything that's edible because it might attract vermin and or bugs. And you may have an invasion in your doll's house. But these, I'm going to be using this for Christmas only, and the rest of the year it's going to be locked away, so I can put it in a plastic bag, and I don't think I'll have a problem. And if I do, I'll just have to take care of it. Now, I've made a little funnel from paper. It's very simple. You just roll it and make sure the point is thin enough to go into your opening, into the opening of the pillow. And then just pour in whatever you've got. That's a lot. I don't need that much. But, and just pour it in. And don't overfill your, unless that's what the look you want. But I want a comfortable pillow. And I want it to be posable. So I'm going to fill it not quite full. Tiny bit more. Right. I think that's enough. And now I can just fold that over again and sew it shut. And while that is drying, I'll quickly show you if you have a square or rectangular pillow, or making a rectangular pillow, and you don't want the corners to go like this, you know, they're curved and then they move out, which I think doesn't look very good. If you don't want that to happen, just instead of cutting them square or sewing them square, sew them a little bit like that. So they're basically rounded. And then instead of this curving in, it will be fairly straight. Or option 2, if you're working on a rectangular pillow, just don't make the corners that sharp. Make them more rounded like that. And you'll have a similar effect. I think this will be dry enough. And I can just sew that shut. Well, it's shut, but there, that will do. And now I've got a lovely, fluffy, fairly poseable, don't do that, pillow or cushion. I still had a lot of material left, so I made 2 more cushions, and this time I used my sewing machine, which was a lot quicker. And I did one with rounded corners and one with square corners. And I hope that if I fill them, you will be able to see the difference. Well, they're finished, and I think you can really see the difference. This is the one, obviously, with the rounded corners, and they'll always pull in a little bit in on the sides because the knitted material tends to do that. But here you can really see that different look. And this one with the straight corners pulls in at all sides. But so it depends a little bit on what look you want. I quite like them both. So comfortable. Until next time.